Good afternoon. Welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Don McArthur here with Dylan Kristy and Chris Vander Doelen. This is our second time. We had some technical difficulties this morning. Chris had some great stuff on the AG and all kinds of stuff. There was even the S word was uttered, but
that was a mistake, but we'll try to do better this time.
Yeah,
there you go.
It never fails. The second time is not as good as the first, except news has developed, and this is a great thing. Milson and Dilkens, they've released their list of campaign contributions, and it's great reading.
Well, I like to think that this is because of what the News Cafe suggested last week, that one day these donations will be made live in the middle of the campaign so that voters know what they're getting. And I like to think they were listening to us, and that's why they've released them.
Excellent. Well, good for them. Props to Robin Easterbrook, too. He's a Windsor mayoral candidate, and he released his contributions. They're about $1,100, but he still put them out there, and he challenged the other candidates as well to do the same.
Exactly. So it came out this morning. At first, so 89,000
for Milson,
and about 102,000 for Dilkens. The neat thing, Dilkens $30K
out of his own pocket.
Out of his own pocket, and for Milson, I think it was 25,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite a large chunk. A third of each campaign is funded personally by the candidates.
Okay. Now, one of the neat things you said. There's nothing that says this is it.
Well, this is what they've released, but nothing prevents either of these candidates or any of these candidates from holding back the controversial names until they have to make the official filing, which I think is, 4 months or 6 months from now. So sure, these are the ones they're admitting to now. We hope that they're accurate, but it'll be months before we know if this is really everybody who donated.
Exactly, and some interesting reading, like a lot of Liberals, obviously, on Milson's campaign. Laura Joy donated the max. A few others, Werner Keller, I think he's limited. It was $99.
Yeah, Strasbourg's. A lot of lawyers on both lists.
Yeah.
Some of the lawyers are on both lists. They've carefully hedged their bets by donating to both campaigns. A lot of corporations on Dilkens. A few more unions. Well, there's no unions on Dilkens' list.
One.
No, that's not true.
The Carpenters.
The Carpenters Union. But Unifor and CUPE and a few others are on Milson's list, which is no surprise. I mean, these are the people who opposed Eddie Dilkens in the last council. So.
Yeah, he's endorsed by Labour, right? So,
yeah, exactly. He's their candidate.
And there's some good ones, too. Naples Pizza endorses both, and you got a lot of big Windsor names. Tafor, he's contributed to Dilkens' campaign. So a lot of good names. We have both lists posted on our website right now, so you can check that out. Scan through yourself.
Dilkens' list is almost like a who's who of local corporate interests. Big companies, big family names, and Milson's list really is a liberal list.
Well, exactly. And what's neat too is that Ed Sleeman in Ward 5, he gave some money to Dilkens, but Eddie Francis, he's not putting his money where his mouth is. He hasn't donated to Dilkens, although he's endorsed him. But Overseas Motors, where Fred Francis works, they've donated to Dilkens' campaign. So,
Well.
Who knows? But it's great reading. The PDFs are on our website. And Larry Horowitz, where are you?
Yes.
We want to see your figures too.
Yes, I'd be really interested to see who's funding his campaign.
Okay. Anything else on the donors, Chris?
No, but I think voters should look at it. I mean, you know which crowd is supporting which candidate by looking at these lists, and I think you should look at them.
Okay.
Excellent.
If we had an Auditor General in Windsor, maybe they could look at the lists. You and Jarvis, you take very different tacks on this. You sort of seem to side with Dilkens and Francis that we don't need a full-fledged Auditor General, that might actually be kind of a dubious use of resources.
No, I think this is a political fad that's been adopted by the left. It's being pushed all over Ontario. We need AGs everywhere. And I don't think that's true. They can save $200,000 a year by contracting this out to different accounting firms, and they can actually change accounting firms whenever they choose. But if you create an in-house Auditor General's department, now you're hiring a whole bunch of QFE staff. You've got these people for 30 years. You're talking about a commitment of millions of dollars over decades, and it's too expensive and it's not necessary. And the fact is, that when things go bad, like they did in Amherstburg, you can't use your in-house AG anyway. You've got to go outside. You've got to get independent third party. So, I mean, why would you want an in-house department to investigate the in-house problems? It doesn't work. You've got to have outside people doing it, and that's why it's illogical to suggest that an in-house AG department is going to solve all the problems of wasted money.
But the other argument then is why wait for it to get that point where police come in and you're going to have to go outside anyway? And doesn't the Auditor General also save money anyway? They don't just look at what the issues are. They look at other ways to save money.
Well, police coming into an administration to look at a municipality, that is so rare. And in fact, in Amherstburg, nothing
You referenced Amherstburg, right? So,
but that was just a political stunt. That was a partisan attack by one group trying to smear the other group, and it turned out not to be true. Mm-hmm. They were not only wrong. I think that they were they were deliberately wrong, and they were just trying to smear people that they're trying to defeat in this election. So that means nothing that the police were called into Amherstburg. You know, there's nothing different what's going on in Amherstburg than is going on in Queen's Park. They spent too much, they borrowed too much, they're broke. Just like Ontario. That's Amherstburg.
You wrote a column about that?
Yeah.
I just got to say, I moved to Amherstburg, and the bad news happened just a day later. Like, really, we got 6 consecutive tax freezes in Windsor, and boom, I'm in Amherstburg. Crazy. So, but the one thing, like, that people say, the Auditor General is enshrined in the Municipal Act. They have the powers of subpoena. They can conduct value for money audits.
Well, it's enshrined that you can have one, not you have to have one.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. And the other thing we were talking about today is you seem to, in your column about it's a great column, that the guys running against Dilkens, you seem to think they're getting bad advice.
Well, it seems to me that they might be a little bit out of touch with the Windsor electorate. I mean, the last council was very, very popular with the majority of the electorate. It's pretty obvious. You know, Francis could have won again. So you've got all these challengers who are running against the popular program that Dilkens and Francis represented, and I don't understand why, unless it's the fact that some of Milson's top campaign people are actually Toronto Liberal people who've come down here to run his campaign, and maybe they're using information from focus groups done in Toronto that don't necessarily apply in Windsor. For instance, they're going on a great length about transits. Now all the challengers are focusing on transit. Oh yeah, we got to extend the bus lines out to the county. Well, it's a nice idea, but you can't do it. Legally, you can't do it unless you have regional government. So it's all fine and well for Milson and Easterbrook and these guys to promise that they're going to have bus lines running to Tecumseh and Amherstburg, but legally they can't do it. But that's what's going on in the Toronto campaign. It's all about public transit, and I think that they're trying to migrate that here to a jurisdiction where it doesn't apply.
We'll get a subway.
It would be underwater.
Yeah.
Which.
Okay, what a transition. Boom, maybe the second one will be better. You made a really neat comment today about flooding. I like this because it's become a huge issue. Every candidate that has come on Trail Talk, they're like, I'm going to end basement flooding, I'm going to end basement flooding. You say that ain't going to happen.
Well, you know, I happened to work for 10 years for a waterproofing contractor, my father's company, and we waterproofed thousands and thousands of basements, and I know a little bit about the subject. And you're never going to end flooding in Windsor because, first of all, Windsor is built in a swamp. We were settled second to Detroit because Detroit was the high ground, we were the swamp. They didn't settle here until later. And then local construction people persisted in building block basements, which are notorious for leaking and being hard to waterproof. Now, we do have historic sewage and drainage problems, which council has been working pretty hard to fix. They're not getting enough credit, not just the last council, but going back about 20 years. They've spent easily $100 million trying to fix this, and they fixed most of it. But you're never going to fix all of it because we're low, we're swampy, we have bad basements, and this summer we had 2 historic rainfalls. My basement flooded in Essex. I'm not screaming at Mayor McDermott in Essex, he's got to fix my basement. It was just a record rainfall. But these challengers have to glom onto something. They got to seize on something as an issue, and I think they're making way too much of this. There's probably only a couple of hundred homes that are affected, and I don't see how that's going to swing an election.
Okay, let's queue up Saturday. What are you going to be writing about for Saturday?
I'm not sure yet. It's such a rich field of opportunity.
It's changing. It's changing hour by hour. This morning he knew. Now who knows?
Oh, the transit one's a good one. I like to sink my teeth into that. I grew up on riding public transit. I love public transit. I ride Transit Windsor dozens of times a year. So I'm in favor of transit, but I think that the ideas don't work.
Cool.
Okay,
Excellent.
This has been great. Chris Vander Doelen, Windstar Vander on Twitter. Thanks for joining us in the Windsor Star News Cafe.